everyone, it's Robin, R.S. Island Crafts, and welcome to my studio. By looking at the title of this video, you have a basic idea of what we're going to chat about today. Do you pre-wash your fabric when you bring it home from the store? And we're talking fat quarters, yardage, the larger pieces, not the pre-cuts like the charm squares and jelly rolls. If I buy fabric from a thrift store or get it in some type of an auction or something like that, I do pre-wash my fabric. But if I just buy it at Walmart, somewhere online, a quilt shop, wherever, I don't pre-wash my fabric. I do, however, pre-wash my fabric if I pick it up at a thrift store or a garage sale. If it comes into my house and maybe it's been sitting in someone's grandmother's attic for a while or something like that, you know how it has that been sitting around kind of musty smell to it. And I also pre-wash my fabric if I happen to have it sitting on a table and I spill my glass of iced tea and it goes all over the fabric. Then it needs to be pre-washed. Some people will pre-wash all of the fabric that comes into their house, no matter where it came from, brand new from the store. Fabric tends to have, from what I understand, for the most part, it has a sizing in it. And that's what keeps your fabric nice and stiff. It's in your clothing also. So when you bring home a dress shirt or a t-shirt from the store and it has a nice firmness to it, not necessarily stiff. Some dress shirts are quite stiff, but it has that nice structure to it. But as soon as you put it through that first wash, it turns nice and soft and comfy. That's because you wash that sizing out of the fabric. Now, some people say they wash it before they put it into a quilt to make sure it's not going to bleed. Like a fabric like this with the red and the blue, it's possible for definitely of the red to bleed, but I find that blue and black also bleeds. Other people say they wash their fabrics to make sure it's going to shrink before they put it in their quilt because they don't want to shrink once it's inside their quilt. They want to know exactly how the fabric is going to react and what it's going to do. I don't care for the process of washing it. Plus, I like my fabric when it's nice and stiff. I like the sizing in it. I find that not only is it a little bit easier to work with, and I know I can spray sizing on it and put starch on it and get the same effect, but I like that crispness to it. I like when I make a quilt or a bag or something, especially like a bag, because if I make a quilt, I'm going to wash it before I give it to the recipient. Or if I'm going to list it in my shop to be sold, I'm going to give it a good wash just to make sure everything is behaving and all the seams are good and nothing does run. I know I should check it beforehand, but if you put a bunch of color catchers in, you can usually make out okay. And you really kind of know what fabric is going to do what, because most of us tend to buy the same fabric from the same lines, the same person that designs it and the companies and stuff like that. After you've been quilting for a while, you'll tend to have a favorite that you'll buy more often, or from a website and you know that their fabrics tend to not run. Even if I were to make a flannel quilt, I don't pre-wash my flannel. I like my quilts to get all crinkly and wrinkled and all that goodness. When I took these out of the washer, I have a nice stack of partial yardage here. they were all knotted up in a ball because of all the threads. Now, even if you zigzag the edges and do something like that, some people do that, you've got to take that extra time, use that thread, your sewing machine and all that, and it still can come out frayed in the end. So that's one of those controversies, the little argument type things that people like to discuss when you're dealing with fabric, whether you're quilting or make clothing. Some people feel very strongly one way or the other. I've always been a to each their own. If you like to pre-wash your fabric, great. If you don't, that's okay too. If you have a fabric that you're worried about it bleeding, you can always snip off a little part of it and soak it in some water and put it on a piece of white fabric and see what happens and see if the color from your basketballs will bleed onto that white fabric. And then you'll know that maybe you should go ahead and either soak it or pre-wash this fabric. But I'm not worried about my white fabrics bleeding. And I'm not worried about them shrinking, so I'm not going to wash them. And I think that's okay. And I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't wash yours. Because if doing this doesn't bother you, and you like the result of having your fabrics washed, then it's perfect for you. When the fabrics are washed, they're nice and soft, and they really have that, not like a worn sheet feeling, but they feel like they've been used a bit, and they're not brand new and crisp. They have that nice soft feel, and that's great. But when I'm working with a fabric, I want it to not feel like that. I like that brand new crisp feel to fabric. Even with starch on it, I find that a pre-washed fabric is just a little bit harder to sew for me. So which side of the fence are you on? Do you wash or do you not wash? Your code word for today is iron. So thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.